morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Today is April 17th, 2020. Not only is it Friday, but it is the Friday before April break. I know all of you must be so excited. I know I am. All right, we today are going to get into writing the end page of our fiction stories from this week, which were realistic fiction. For today's lesson, you are going to need the 2 pages of your organizer. You're going to need your beginning page, which should have your picture and your writing already. Your middle page, which again should have your picture and your writing. And then you're bringing your end page, which should have no writing yet, just your picture. You're going to grab all of those things and a pencil with an eraser on it that's nice and sharpened so we can get through this lesson nice and smooth. All right, go ahead and grab those things and we'll get ready to get started. Today we are writing the end, which means we are introducing the solution or the lesson learned. Now, if you challenged yourself to add a lesson to your story, you're going to make sure that that lesson is clear by the time you finish your story today. This is key. You do not need to write out what the lesson is. You want your reader to figure it out on their own. And what I mean by that is on your end page, you're not writing the lesson learned is. The lesson is. If your story does not have a lesson, I want you to think, how does my story end? How is the problem solved? Because your story has to have an ending, it all has to come together. I want you to be thinking of all of these things as we write our endings together today. Now, before we write the end, we're going to look over our beginning and our middle pages again. We're going to see first if my story flows. Does it make sense? And also to see, does my reader know who my characters are? Does my reader know where and when the story takes place? Does my reader know what the problem is? Does my writing match my pictures? These are very important things you need to make sure are clear in your beginning and your middle so that your book finishes in a clear way. All right, so right now I want you to grab your beginning and middle pages, and I'm going to grab mine. Okay. I'm going to read mine out loud, and I'm going to see if it answers those questions. After I do mine, then you're going to do yours. All right, here I go. Boston is the best city in the world. Everything I need is right here, said Melanie to her dog one day on their walk in the park. As she looked at all of the beautiful leaves changing color, she couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Here, she was a boss. She played sports, she had lots of friends, and even though she hated beans, she represented Beantown all day, every day, loud and proud. One day, as she was cleaning her room, her parents came in all excited. "Honey, we have big news," they said. Melanie swallowed real hard, nervous, thinking about all of the possibilities of what this news could be. "Dad got a new job that will help the family and we'll be moving to New York City," Mom said. She couldn't believe it. Her picture-perfect Boston dream coming to an end. "I don't want to go. This is my home," cried Melanie. Her parents tried to reassure her, but it didn't work. And on the next day, all packed up, they started out driving to New York City. Okay, so from that, I can tell where my story starts. It starts in Boston and it's fall because the leaves are changing color. I can tell that it moves to New York City. I know my characters include her parents and Melanie. Okay. I know that she loves her city, Boston. It's her favorite place. And I know my problem is that she's upset that she has to move to New York City because her dad got a new job. I know that it matches my picture for those pages. Okay? And I know that it flows. I know when this is going, because when I said my middle, which is where I introduced my problem, I said one day, okay? And that's what we're going to do with our end today. Okay, before we get into our writing, I need to mention something important. I noticed in a lot of your story writing yesterday, some of you were writing I. In your fiction story, you are not included, okay? So you are not using I. You are going to write the character's name, okay? Even if you're writing about yourself, let's say, instead of saying I would write Miss Andros, okay? Now you might be thinking, but Miss Andros, you included I in your story in the first sentence. And then again on the second page. And that's true, I did. But notice that when I did, it was in quotation marks. And that means when the person, the character, is speaking. So unless they're speaking, you should not be using the word I. You're just using the name of your character. Go ahead and make sure you fix that on your beginning and your middle before we get started on our end. All right, friends. Now we are ready to write our end page and introduce our solution. So I'm going to take out the 2 pages of my organizer. And the reason we're going to be using this is because it has the setting for our ending. It also has our solution, and it also introduces and closes out with our supporting characters. Okay? Go ahead and grab yours. All right. You're going to watch me do mine first, and then you're going to have time to do yours. So I look at my setting, and it says, and New York City, Times Square, and the season is spring. Now you can describe that. So in seeing that she's in New York, I know that she's already settled, right? She must be already in her new house. She must be like starting school soon, okay? So when I start, I'm thinking of her journey there. And I said, upon seeing all of the cars and hearing all of the noise, Melanie wasn't so sure this was going to work out. You can start your story with a thought that your character is thinking like this. You can start with a quote, which means like something that they said. You can also use the strategies that are on the screen from yesterday to help you out. Okay. She was willing to give it a chance, though. Now, remember, when I wrote about what my character didn't like, and I already spoke about the beans, so then now I'm including the loud noise. You don't have to include everything you wrote about, but I'm just including 2 for details. So she doesn't like loud noise, and that's where I wrote in my first sentence, seeing all the cars and hearing all of the noise, because there's a lot of that in New York. More than in Boston. Okay. She was willing to give it a chance, though. The next day, again, using my setting, letting my reader know when something is happening in the story. The next day, Melanie started school. Where she met, I'm introducing my supporting characters now. Okay. She met these 2 friends, Carmen and Gigi, who could tell right away how nervous Melanie was. Okay, so Carmen and Gigi are seeing how nervous Melanie is, and now they're going to act on it. I'm going to specifically say what they did because they are the ones that helped her feel better. I know that because that's in my solution. So they said to each other, hey, why don't we show her around and take her out? Show her what this city's all about. Show her what this city's all about. Okay? And I end the quotation mark just like that. Okay? At first, Melanie said no. But after thinking about it, she was excited to try. Okay. Now I look at my organizer, and I wrote that they took her to parks and restaurants. Okay, so I'm going to mention that. And if you're running out of room like I am, you're going to grab another piece of blank paper, another piece of lined paper, and you don't have to draw an illustration, you can just write. So I'm going to have that ready for me on the side. So I say, the three girls went to parks and restaurants, and I go back to what she liked to do, right? She liked to eat pizza. Oh my goodness. Yeah, she did. She liked to eat pizza, so I'm going to write that. And even ate. Now notice I ran out of room, so I'm going to go right to my next page. The best pizza ever. I'm going to put an exclamation point because I want to say it with expression. Melanie said, maybe it isn't so bad here. Okay? And this is where my lesson is coming in, and you do not need to say the lesson is or the lesson learned is for your reader to understand what it is. So my lesson learned was that change is good and home will always be there. I can introduce that lesson through dialogue, which is what my characters are saying to each other. So when Melanie says, maybe it isn't so bad here, Carmen and Gigi smiled and at the same time said, we know change is hard, but it's also a good thing. Also good. Home will always be there. Melanie hugged them so tight. And ran home to tell her parents how it was going to be okay. How it was all going to be okay. All right? So now let me read my end page and let me see if I solved my problem, I introduced the lesson, and I brought my whole ending together so that it makes sense. Okay, so here I go. Upon seeing all of the cars and hearing all of the noise, Melanie wasn't so sure this was going to work out. She was willing to give it a chance, though. The next day, Melanie started school, where she met these two friends, Carmen and Gigi, who could tell right away how nervous Melanie was. They said to each other, hey, why don't we show her around and take her out? Show her what this city's all about. At first, Melanie said no, but after thinking about it, she was excited to try. The three girls went to parks and restaurants and even ate the best pizza ever. Melanie said, maybe it isn't so bad here. Carmen and Gigi smiled and at the same time said, we know change is hard, but it's also good. Home will always be there. Melanie hugged them so tight and ran home to tell her parents how it was all going to be okay. All right, from that, I understand that The girls helped her solve the problem by showing her around, right? They made her feel included. I know that they were outside and they were eating pizza, so I know by setting and what they like. I know that the lesson learned was that change is good. Okay. So once you're finished your writing your end page, we're going to go back and check for capitals, right? We need capitals at the beginning of sentences, proper nouns. We're going to make sure we have punctuation where it's needed, so periods, commas, exclamation marks, quotation marks. We're going to make sure we have finger spaces. All right? And we're going to make sure, again, you are not saying I, because you are not in the story. This is not a story about ourselves. It is about your characters. So you're writing their names. The only time you use I is if they're speaking. So I look. I see some capitals there I need to fix. That's not the beginning of a sentence or a proper noun, so I just cross it off and write it on top. I notice my handwriting is nice and neat. I started from the beginning and went all the way to the end. I wrote neatly inside the lines. I have my punctuation. I want to make sure my heart words are spelled correctly. I underlined this to add more expression. You could do that in your story. All right. Now, once you've done that, you're going to take your end page, whether it was 1 or if you were like Miss Andros and wrote 2. You're going to take pictures of these and upload them onto Seesaw. Okay. All right. That is it for today, friends. Great job. Please make sure you're sending pictures or videos of you reading your finished story so we can not only put in one of our videos, but so we can share with everyone, because we love seeing your ideas. Hope you have an amazing April break and that you have a good weekend to start off that break. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.